This is the Geary Boulevard Sewer and Water Improvements Phase 2 project that we're talking about. Oh boy, cannot progress my slides. There we go. Who we are, the SFPUC is leading this project. We provide water, power, and sewer to the city of San Francisco. And we'll be doing this project in coordination with a couple of other city agencies, MTA, Public Works, and the Office of Economic and Workforce Development. So we're all working together to make this project and the future transit and safety project along the same corridor a success. So the reason we are doing this project is to rehabilitate or replace existing sewer and water mains and the laterals, service laterals that have exceeded their useful life along the project corridor. This is going to maintain our critical utility services without disruption, so water and sewer service. We're also going to be increasing the stormwater conveyance capacity in some cases. So where there might be ponding or flooding in some storms, we're hoping this will mitigate a little bit by upsizing the size of our storm sewer system. This will also avoid disruptive emergency repairs. So by doing them now as a cohesive project, we're avoiding rushing in to fix repairs as emergencies happen, such as this photograph you're seeing here as a sinkhole caused by a failed sewer line along this corridor. So that's the kind of thing we want to avoid. And then we're upsizing some of the water pipelines to improve fire flows, so for firefighting purposes. This is really important in terms of replacing these facilities because in most cases, the sewer and water mains within this project area are from the 1880s, 1890s. That is when they were originally installed when the Richmond district was first built out. Other reasons that this project is important, in addition to just the age of the infrastructure that needs to be replaced, is that we've already done some water main improvements on either end. So this project is going from Stanion to 32nd Avenue on Geary. We have done water main improvements in 2021 from 32nd to 48th, and then from Presidio to Kearney. So either end, the water mains have been upgraded, and now this is, for lack of a better word, kind of the weak link in the system that we want to make sure gets upgraded to provide that resilience and great service for the entire system throughout the Richmond district. And then the other reason we're doing the project and doing it now in particular is the city's dig once approach. So MTA is doing a transit and safety improvement project along this exact corridor. So we've timed our work so that we can go in, update all the utilities, and then MTA comes in directly behind us and upgrades all the surface features. So it minimizes disruptions to the community. It maximizes all of our resources. We're kind of doing one big project, and it gets it all done, we think, sooner overall to deliver an end product, a final product to the community that is done and doesn't have to be touched again anytime soon. So the precise scope and location of our project, as I mentioned, is on Geary Boulevard from Stanion to 32nd. We will be breaking the work into two different segments, A and B. So segment A is from 12th Avenue to 32nd Avenue. That is where we'll be starting our work. And then once the work in segment A is complete, we'll be moving over to complete the work in segment B. And in segment A, once we've completed our work, that is where MTA's project will start their surface improvement contract. So we're kind of overlapping to speed up the overall duration of work of the two contracts. So you can see here our timeline in blue is our contract, the sewer and water improvements project. And then in orange is the MTA's Transit and Safety Service Improvements Project. So as we complete segment A in late 2026, this is when the MTA's contract will start. And then we anticipate all the work being completed at the end of 2027 from both projects. The start for our contract is late 2024, which is now. We're anticipating NTP at the end of this month, which is a notice to proceed. So that will get the contractor kicked off on beginning the work. We're going to start with some preliminary work between now and the end of the year, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail, but it's basically some minimally disruptive potholing work where we're investigating, looking to see where precisely the utility lines are so we can avoid conflicts. Then we'll be doing some sewer lateral inspections, which are do not require excavation. And then the actual excavation work will start in January 2025 with our water main replacement, sewer main replacement, and then we also have some fiber optic conduit installation to serve the Muni bus facilities there. And the final thing to mention on this slide is our outreach. So you can see the outreach is meant to be comprehensive for both the contracts and will span both of the contracts to the end of 2027. We intend to have overlap on the outreach teams so that there's not confusion from the community. If you see the outreach team out there, they'll be able to answer questions conceivably for both projects, or at least point you in the right direction. So that preliminary work I mentioned earlier, that'll be starting, we hope in November, is the potholing. So we're identifying where utilities are. We, take our best guess based on the record files. Then before we start the work, we want to go confirm exactly where the utility alignments are so that we can avoid costly and time-consuming conflicts in the field while we're doing our actual excavation work. And then the sewer lateral inspections, this will be occurring on streets where no sewer main replacement is being done under this project. So there are several blocks where the sewer main's already been replaced or is in good enough shape that it doesn't need to be replaced. And in those instances, we still want to upgrade the sewer laterals if a condition assessment shows that they need to be upgraded. That is, again, so that when we pave over this whole corridor in the future, all the work is done and we're not needing to have a crew come back in to replace a sewer lateral down the road. So we want to do condition assessments of all the sewer laterals, including those that are not directly connected to our main work. So in late 2024, we'll be going out there, we'll be doing a video inspection with a camera of those laterals and then determining what condition they're in for potential either replacement or rehabilitation during our work. So a little bit more detail on each of the scopes. So the sewer main upgrade is approximately 1.4 miles of rehabilitation or replacement. And I'll talk a little bit more about what rehabilitation means, but replacement is, simply removing the old pipe or abandoning the old pipe and then putting in a new pipe, in some cases larger pipe than what was previously there to provide more capacity. There's no disruption to service as we do this work, so the contractor will be able to bypass sewer flows as we work, so we're not going to have to shut down sewer collection during the term of our work. And then the combination of open cut construction and trenchless, so that goes back to the rehabilitation method, which I'll talk in a little more detail about later, but it's a way that we don't have to excavate in the street. This is less impactful to the community and the streets. We can do the work pretty quickly, like a weekend versus several weeks. And less of an impact on traffic, a smaller footprint for the work. So we're using this trenchless rehabilitation method for as many instances as we can. So we've looked at the sewers and used it wherever we could to kind of minimize disruption. And here we go. So this is the methodology for that rehabilitation. It's called cured in place pipe or cured in place liner, CIPP or CIPL is what you'll hear it called. And it essentially is a liner that goes into the pipe. We steam the liner to have it adhere to the inside of the existing pipe. That provides stability and prevents leaks for pipes that are still structurally in pretty good shape, but maybe they're brick and the brick mortar, really old, is starting to fall apart. This will give it a little bit more rigidity and prevent intrusion of roots and water getting out of the sewer pipe. So this is a great method for adding a lot more service life to a pipe that's getting near the end. Yeah, I mentioned earlier, the work duration is 72 hours for the CIPL versus 1 month for open trench. So it really cuts down our work time and our footprint. So why we're choosing to use it as much as we can. And the water main upgrades. So there's a lot more water mains in this area. You can see the 6.7 miles of water mains versus the 1.6 of sewer work. That is because there's 2 8-inch lines and 1 16-inch transmission line on every block, essentially. So this is a really important corridor just in terms of distributing water to all of the Richmond district for both potable use and firefighting use. Hence the importance, again, of the project with the bookends already being done and getting this gap in the middle completed. With the water service, there will be some temporary interruption of water service when we're connecting a new water main to the service point. So not like widespread interruption, but more focused. As we connect the service to the new main that we're being installed, we'll have to shut down water service for a short period of time. We're going to coordinate those and try and work with businesses to do it, maybe later outside of their working hours. And so we have some flexibility built into the contract to allow some night work to do this if needed. Otherwise, if it's residential and it's okay, we can do it during the day. We'll do it during the day, and it'll only be a matter of kind of hours of shutdown rather than lengthy shutdowns. And the water mains, that is open cut excavation construction. So it will be excavating, installing pipe, and then backfilling. And then the fiber optic conduit, which I mentioned earlier, is part of our scope. This will eventually provide transit signal priority fiber for the 38 Geary Muni line. So we're installing 1.5 miles of the conduit now, basically a pipe where we can run fiber optic wires in later. We're doing this work as part of our contract because we're lumping all the kind of utility work together where we're excavating so that MTA doesn't have to come back and excavate further under their contract, which would be really disruptive. This way we're getting all the excavation done and it's all coordinated by a single contractor so they can be real efficient with how they do their work. So what to expect during our construction as we put in these utilities. The work will be done in phases. So we will be working our way down, beginning on segment A, bouncing a little bit from block to block in the manner that's most efficient for the contractor to make this as fast as possible. So it will be construction activity might be intermittent. They may do a 8-inch water line on a block and then continue moving down that block and then come back at a later date and do the 16-inch water main and then maybe come back and do the sewer main. We need to do each of those kind of separated so that we can maintain traffic flow. So we can't, completely shut down Geary to do all the utility lines at work. So we'll do one at a time, keep the traffic flows going. And then as one facility is finished, come back and do the next facility. So you'll see us kind of coming back and forth a little bit to complete the work. And again, that's to keep the traffic flows going. And we think it'll be done in the most expeditious manner for the overall duration of the contract that we're out there. As we finish our excavation work to install the pipes, we'll be putting in temporary paving, like what you see in the bottom left corner here. So it'll be just a paving of the strip of our pipe trench. And so we'll trench out an area, maybe 3, 4, 5 feet wide, put in the pipe, and then just temporarily pave over that. That is so that when the MTA comes along in the second surface contract, they will do a final paving of the whole width of the roadway from curb to curb, from Stanion all the way to 32nd. So rather than having us kind of continue to try and pave this thing as we go, we think it makes a lot more sense to have the final paving occur with the last contract after they do other surface improvements, so there can be just one clean final paving of the whole street, which will be a really excellent finished product that we hope will not need to be touched for many, many years. What to expect with parking. So our work is not going to take any permanent parking away. This is just underground utility work. But as we install pipelines, there will be some temporary prohibition of parking in active construction zones. So in particular, the water and the fiber optics. Those lines are generally located closer to the curb, either in the parking lane or directly adjacent to parking lanes. And so just in order to physically do the work, we will have to restrict parking while we're doing those installations. And then some parking spaces will also be used to stage materials and equipment. That staging will be short term, so we're not going to leave equipment and staging materials in one particular area for the entire duration of this project, and hamper that block where that is. The staging will move with our work. So as we do a work on a particular block, we might have to have a spot open up to staging and equipment for that block. And then as we complete the block, the staging will move along with the work to the next block. And we have put some new language into our specifications for the contractor to do our best to limit the parking prohibition to just our active work sites. So we got a lot of feedback from Terraval project about some of the parking restrictions occurring and then no work happening. And so that the signs would kind of stay up too long. So we're hoping to minimize that to the extent possible. And we'll work with the community as best we can to just make sure that the parking restrictions are happening right before we start our work and then going away once we're done with our work. And then, as I mentioned previously, traffic will be maintained in both directions the entire duration of our work. In most cases, we are going to have 2 travel lanes in both directions, so both east and west, along with the Muni service. In a couple instances, it might taper down to 1 lane just for certain scopes of work, but we will be trying to maintain 2 traffic lanes, which is why we'll need to kind of do one utility at a time as we come through there to maintain that traffic service. Access. So driveway access will be maintained, but there would be potentially some delays if we're doing, excavation work directly in front of a driveway at a particular time. We can plate over it, but it'll take a bit of time in coordination with the contractor. So again, we'll be coordinating with businesses that might require frequent access in and out of their driveway to kind of time our work as best we can to impact you the least. In other cases, if you need to get out of your driveway, you might have to wait for the contractor to stop their work and plate over it so that you can get out. So we'll do our best to give notice about when that's going to occur, and then just make sure everyone's aware of the points of contact in order to get a hold of us to maybe coordinate specifics on driveway access. And then same with sidewalk access, that will be maintained at all time. Pedestrian path, we might have some modified walkways at times, especially with the fiber optic work, which is in some cases in the sidewalk. So we might have a pathway that goes out in the street, a protected pathway, but the pedestrian path along Geary will be maintained at all times. And then in terms of just other impacts, there will be noise, dust, and vibration present. This is going to be active work zone. We expect that there'll be some of that. We do have thresholds that need to be maintained within the city, and so we expect to be under those thresholds, and we will be looking into monitoring to make sure that our contractor stays under those thresholds. So for the start of the work, how we're going to be sharing information with you guys, the community, as we start getting into like actual work, we'll be using our website, so puc.gov/Geary. So that'll have 3-week look-ahead schedules posted. So that's the construction schedule that shows all the work that'll be happening and where for the next 3 weeks. So we'll post those as we get them, which will just be kind of a running update of the future work. We'll track the progress of the work so we can show you kind of what's already been completed and done versus what's still to come. We'll have some information about future webinars and ways of distributing more information and talking to us directly and asking questions. And then we'll also be doing some e-blasts. So we're collecting a lot of emails now for members of the community, and we'll send out emails with really important information as we go along. And then additionally, we do 30-day and 10-day notices of work. So that's kind of a formal noticing requirement for the city. It's just 10 days before and 30 days before any particular scope of work, you get a formal notice, kind of like a postcard in the mail saying that work's going to occur, adjacent to your property on such and such a day. And so that's kind of a formal process to let you know when the work's going to happen. But we're also going to do our best to do like next door updates and then merchant engagement. We have a small business working group. So for the merchants, where a little bit more coordination and timing is needed, we'll try and do a bit more than just the formal 30-day and 10-day notices to kind of work with you guys and alert you to when the work's going to happen, how long the work's going to happen, kind of an idea of what the work's going to look like and how it might impact a particular property. So this is our contact information, gearyupgrades@sfwater.org, and then that's a number that you can call, 554-3258, just to talk to someone, to get a hold of someone with the project that can route you to the correct person to answer your question. And that is all. And I think, yeah, if you have questions, you can put them into the Q&A and we will attempt to answer them at this time.
Yes, again, if you have a question, please be sure to type it into the Q&A box that you see at the bottom of your screen. Derek, we do have one question already submitted. The question is, will driveway access be permanently altered or obstructed as it has transpired on Terranel?
As it pertains to our project, so the Geary Boulevard Sewer and Water Project, there will be no permanent alterations or obstructions of driveways. The MTA's surface project does have some bus bulb outs and other things that may alter the driveways. That's still in design, so I can't say for certain. I think as that project goes forward, there'll be more information available on the driveways, but for our utility project, there will be no permanent alteration or obstructions to driveways.
Great. No other questions at the moment, so we'll just give it a couple minutes to see if anyone has any other questions. Again, type it into the Q&A box and we can respond. And if there are no other questions, you can always reach out to us at any time. Oh, here's another question. How can one access those possible changes by SFMTA? I get the answer to that really is the SFMTA does have their project website, which is sfmta.com/improvegeary. A lot of their project information is on that project page, and you can I believe there's an email address on there too. That's probably going to be the best way to reach out to the SFMTA's project team. Derek, I don't know if you have anything else you want to chime in on that question, but I think that might be the best response.
Yeah, that's the best response at this time. It's a separate project, so yeah, you would, yeah, that's the best way if you can get a hold of them and they can give you updates.
Great. And to the person who asked that question, if you would like for us to connect you, we'd be happy to do that. You can email us at gearyupgrades@sfwater.org, and I'd be happy to connect you to the SFMTA's project team. Derek, we have another question. Thank you, Derek. Another question. What impacts will there be to side streets?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So at each of the intersections along Geary, there is some sewer and water work, mostly contained within the intersection itself, but in some cases, like especially for the sewer work, it might go 10 or 20 feet down into a side street. So there will be some utility work in a few of the side streets, but compared to the scope on Geary, it's fairly limited. So there might be one sewer line installation that's going to happen. We'll maintain traffic flow on those streets at that time. And again, there might be some traffic or parking loss, temporary parking loss, depending on where the pipe is. But they're very short spans that are happening on the side streets. It's not going way down the side streets. It's limited to the first, like I said, maybe 30 feet of a street.
The next question is from a merchant on Geary. She said that I have a business on Geary Boulevard and she's on other Geary improvement boards, but she is a renter. Does she need to tell the landlord this information, or do we contact him directly? So I will say, I'll jump in, Derek, and if you want to respond as well, but with our outreach materials that we send out with our notices, those generally just go to the physical addresses. So I would say that if you're renting, you would receive the notices. They don't actually go to a landlord's address who might live off of the corridor. So if you want to make sure that they're informed, you would want to let them know yourself, because our outreach materials likely won't be sent to them. They're just sent to the physical addresses along the corridor, and usually within one block in either direction, so up to Clement and Anza.
But I think, yeah, if you wanted us to talk to your landlord about it and provide this information, we certainly could. You would just have to. We don't have access to the contact info for the landlord, just the property itself or the business itself.
Okay, so another question. Is the water replacement pipe to address the lack of firefighting ability in the Richmond as identified by the 1990 civil grand jury?
The water replacement is not to address the lack of firefighting ability in the Richmond based on that civil grand jury. This is simply to upgrade our potable system to provide it'll be better fire flows with the bigger pipes we're installing. The firefighting water that's referred to in the civil grand jury is part of what's now called the Emergency Fire Water System, EFWS. So there are separate projects not related to this one that are looking at installation of EFWS in the Richmond district. We have coordinated with those projects preliminarily to make sure that they're not going to be installing on Geary. And so that is not their intent. They're still looking at several options. But we think we're at least coordinated with that work, so that will happen at some point in the future outside of this project and won't cause any further disruptions on Geary.
Great. There are no other questions at the moment, but I do just want to give it one last minute in case anyone has any last minute questions. And as we wait to see that, I do want to remind everyone that a copy of this recording of the webinar, as well as a copy of this presentation, will be posted on our website by the end of the week. So again, the website is sfpuc.gov/Geary. So I'm not seeing any other. Oh, there's one more. EFWS proposes using potable water in time of emergency. I'm not sure if that's a statement or a question, but that was written in there.
Yeah, it's a different pipe system, I guess. I don't want to go down into EFWS in this project, but yes, it's potable water, but it's a different piping system, and we are not installing that piping system as part of this project. We are updating our low pressure water pipes, which do provide a primary firefighting source, but it's different from the EFWS.
Okay. Well, I think that is it for our questions. So I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. We hope that you found this webinar useful and the webinar provided you with a better understanding of the project. Should you have any other questions for the project team, we will actually be at the SFMTA's Geary Boulevard CAC meeting later this evening, which begins at 6 p.m. You can find information on how to join that meeting at sfmta.com/improvegeary. But you can also email us at any time at the website you see here on the screen, GearyUpgrades@sfwater.org, or you can call us at the phone number you see as well, 415-554-3258. Thank you again for spending your time with us today, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Derek.
Thanks all.